We're good to go right here. So, hey everybody, welcome to another month of just hopefully expanding your minds, your beliefs, challenging maybe some beliefs. And I'm excited for this Zoom call, not only because it's someone I have the utmost respect for. It's been an incredible mentor in my life. But more importantly, if you knew what the challenge was to get this Zoom call done, you would be like, oh man, I would have quit a long time ago. And I think, CJ, you can speak into this. And he's known around the world, by the way, everyone, as Coach CJ. And that's how I've known him most of my career, as Coach. And I will tell you, he's good at everything he puts his mind to. Just talk to him about golf or tennis or anything he's wanted to become a master at. He has mastered it. He's trained with some of the greatest. But I'm telling you, there is many people that would, if they would have faced the challenges of the Zoom call that probably started off at 6 a.m. this morning and is now way later in the day. We've gone through everything you could think of. Literally, it was the power of agreement and prayer that probably we did nothing, and now we have audio. But and I think it's really apropos of people giving up too soon or quitting, because I had some internal dialogue. Well, I'll just have to come up with a plan B. And you know what I realized? There's no such thing right now as believing in plan B. So let's just stick with plan A. So I want to welcome. Yeah, that's right. I want to welcome my good friend and mentor, and I want to frame this so you know. He has been not only, and I'll give you the reference of how I know him, he's a chiropractor, but he's a serial entrepreneur, and he's the most principled business entrepreneur that sees money where no one else sees it, sees opportunity, knows how to take an empty field, plant seed, and reap a massive harvest. I watched him do it over and over and over again. But this is what I most respect, is that he knows how to lead people. He's been one of the largest coaches in my profession. And every coach that I know of today, whether they say it or not, I know was mentored or a part of his inner circle platinum club back in the day, and a part of his coaching. And he's created more million-dollar practices in my field than any other coach out there. And I don't care what they say. I just say, you show me how many you have, and I guarantee his numbers will beat it. And he doesn't have to say it. I'm giving you the endorsements because I've watched it. I've met them. Some of my best friends in the profession my age were mentored by this man. So one of the first interviews that I wanted to do since day one, and for many of you that know me have heard of me talk about Coach CJ, because he's not only an incredible communicator, he sees things in people and knows how to unlock them. And even when people are frustrated, upset, I see the art of communication that he has, and he's able to pull the gold out. And when you don't even know the gold, but here's what I've learned about watching him. He knows that people in the gold rush found gold because they were mining for it. You just didn't trip over gold. You had to dig for it. You had to heat it up. You had to go search for it. And those that had the patience were able to get the gold and made famous in the gold rush. This is what he's at. This is what he's been doing his entire career. He's trained with some of the best minds, and I'll let him tell you who he's trained with. And I'm telling you, and he's coached and mentored so many people. He's been a big part of my success. But more so, he's going to be a part of your success just with this degree of separation. So we are very, very honored to give this mic over to him. And wherever this goes, I know it's the right time. It's the right thing. It's the right place we need to be in to get what you need to get in. So you might have to listen to this recording over and over and over again. And CJ, I just want to say thank you for your time. I know we started early. You've had a crazy day. Your kids are now off at college and one at home. Your wife's waiting for you. I just want to honor you for taking the time to still make this a priority, because, man, you have no idea how much it means to me. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you for not only inviting me onto the call, but you're right. There was a never quit in even getting this Zoom conversation to happen. And you're right. We started at 6 o'clock this morning. It wasn't going to work. We tried it again. It wasn't going to work. But you know, that's oftentimes how some of the most amazing, amazing enterprises get built. You know, it's almost as if you get tested to see, is it worth it for you? You know, and is there that, you know, stick to it that you have inside? And so anyhow, just so very grateful that you and I are connected tonight,
Yeah.
and all of the Maverick entrepreneurs. You know, just blessings to each and every one of you. I can't wait to meet you personally. I've heard a lot about you, and sky's the limit. You know, if you don't hear anything else from me tonight, just know sky is the limit. I had the opportunity to have some really terrific coaches, teachers, mentors, you know, early in my life. My dad being, you know, the very first. My dad was sort of my hero, truly, you know, growing up, and I'll circle back to him in just a minute. But you know, when you're blessed to have really great training early in your life, and then you know, can build on that. You look back, you know, and you just go, wow, look at that layer one, layer two, layer. And you know,
Yeah.
Matt, I realized for a lot of men and women that I coach today, and I never take this for granted, so please don't think I'm saying that for a second, is I realize there's a lot of people that never got those layers
Yeah.
early on. You know, and so you don't want to just assume like, okay, everybody's got layers 1 through 7. Let's just now add layer 8. When in fact, actually 1 through 7 may have some very serious gaps, and just incredibly talented people, Matt. I mean, incredibly talented, gifted people, Matt, that are driven, you know, passionate, and yet they just feel like, gosh, I'm not getting out of my way. You know, what's going on here with this person? You know, it should actually be going into a 2x, a 3x, a 4x, you know, and I want that. You know, I'm not lazy, and yet something's just, you know, in the way. And I just look at these layers and I realize, wow, we got to go back here to layer 2, layer 3, or layer 4. And then as soon as we do that, well, the skies open up, and, you know, here we go. And so I just want to start tonight by acknowledging the fact that regardless of what business you're in, there are universal laws, there are universal principles, and I rarely see that you can bypass them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just can't go, well, listen, I've got that down, and maybe, you know, we'll get back to that later, and, you know, let's go this way. And that's true of our health too, right? I mean, so I see optimal health and optimum business performance. Man, you and I see that all the time, Matt. They're very, very closely linked. I'll give you an example. My father, go back to my father for a moment. My father would tuck me to bed, little boy, and then he would leave, Matt, to go to work. And the reason why I knew that was I would sneak out of bed and I would go to my window and I'd watch him drive away. You know, and there was something about that just didn't feel right to me, you know, just kind of watching my dad leave our house and drive away. And, you know, this didn't make much sense to me. And a few years later, I wound up having a conversation with my mom about that. And it was the first time, my mom was the first person in my life that I ever heard use the phrase graveyard shift. Your dad works the graveyard shift. And a few years later, that just permeated every cell in my body. And it just took me maybe a couple more years. And I think I actually just started to even study, like, what did that really mean? I just knew he worked at night, you know, and all night. Matt, when I started to read the research on it, what I learned was that people that work the graveyard shift, they die 10 years earlier than everybody else. And so I went and had a conversation. I was probably 12, 13 at the time with my dad. You know, once I realized what that was, and I was asking him about this graveyard shift and what he knew about it. And you know what, Matt? He knew everything about it, which blew me away. But this is kind of where I'm coming back to this. I'm talking about a universal principle, and then I'm also talking about a commitment level. And we'll see these on both sides as to, you know, how we can use this today, tonight, in this message. You see, my dad, Matt, didn't go to college, right? He was a high school graduate, and he was an airplane mechanic. And he knew that if he worked all night, he'd be able to make more money doing it that way. And he made a commitment early in his marriage with my mom. And that was that his dream was about helping my sister and my two brothers and me make our dreams come true. So they didn't go out, to dinner. They didn't go travel to fancy places. They didn't buy each other expensive gifts. It was a commitment. It was like, whatever we have, this is what we're doing with it. And that he already knew working like that was going to cause an early life for him, earlier than what would be intended otherwise. And he did it anyhow because of a purpose that was driving him. Now, I would have loved to have thought that he could have figured that out and that I could actually be introducing him to you on the Zoom call, because he's such an amazing human being. But the reality is that if you don't go to sleep before midnight, then understand, some of us that are even on this line right now that are tremendous individuals, but you're a maverick entrepreneur that happens to stay up, past midnight. Listen to me. You're living a version of the graveyard shift. And I'm just not okay with that. And I'm the first person maybe that will just call you out on that. But you know what? That's not going to be the long game. You don't have to do that. And so understanding a simple and powerful universal principle as just the REM cycles that happen in 90 minutes. Time magazine, for example, August 2014, literally put it this way. It was probably the most poetic, beautiful way I've ever heard sort of a scientific fact expressed, Matt. And what they said was, for every hour that you go to sleep before midnight, it's worth 2 after midnight. And so if you go to bed at 10:30 and you're actually sleeping that hour and a half, that's the first 90-minute REM cycle. It's as if you've already got 3 in the bank. But if you go, so what am I saying? You could go to bed at 10:30 and you could wake up at 4:30. Just follow me here for a second. That's just 6 hours, right? At least by the way we'd measure that, right? From clock to clock, 10:30 to 4, that's a 6 hours. And people will go, gosh, I just don't know if that's enough sleep. But if you actually measure the REM, if you measure the restful, restorative, energy producing power that comes from 10:30 to 4:30 versus somebody who goes to bed after midnight and let's say wakes up at 8. Are you with me? Right? So that's like 8 hours. And you think, well, somebody gets 8 hours of sleep is certainly healthier, better off than the person that's getting 6, right? Not even close. Not even close. And so that person then that's going to bed after midnight, they don't understand a certain principle. And that's kind of where I was going early in this conversation. Sometimes it's the, gosh, I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I've got a level 1, level 2, foundation 3, foundation 4. Sky's the limit. So we have to understand what it means to have a very high bar for a purpose. Match that then with goals that are achievable along the way for that mission or purpose. And then we've got to have universal laws and principles that bring us consistently to crushing those goals, Matt, and being able to do it in a way where we mentally, physically, in relations with our family, our friends, our children, our money, our God, right? We are all balanced and strong, in every one of those spokes because we had the foundation as we were building that business.
Wow. Wow. I've never heard it that way. Yeah, I've never heard that on that. As long as I've known you, I've never heard you even talk on that. And I think it's so important. Some people are grinding it out. Everything is about right now, hashtag hustle and grind, hustle and grind. But yet they're grinding themselves into the ground.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And so I wind up meeting doctors and I wind up consulting a great number of them. And, and you've met these people, you know what I'm saying, where you might look at a snapshot and their business appears successful, but they're 35, 40 pounds overweight. They're separated from their wife or husband, spouse. They may be estranged from their children, but they're banking well, right? And I wouldn't call that a successful story at all, right?
Yeah.
Because what they had to do to get to that place, to me, was just one failure after another, when it could have been different, right? And I think that's what Maverick Entrepreneur is all about, man. It is just being righteous and being awesome and powerful and pure and unstoppable, and you've got to understand, where's that purpose line? What are the right goals that you should have in front of you? And what are your layers, of universal law that never, ever is out of step. The universal laws are never wrong. They're always right. And when we submit, and engage in those, man,
Yeah.
opens up doors that would otherwise not open.
Let me grab one of my books right here, because I would love for you to speak on this, because I've learned so much from you around it, because I've made, I call it values-based decision making, based off values that I've established, and I've watched you live a life like this. But I developed family values, work values, investment values, parenting values, social life values are my 5 categories of values that I've structured. And I know there's more, but I've chosen to focus on those 5. But I'd love for you to speak into core values. What do core values mean to me? Why mean to you? I know what they mean to me. Why do you have them? What have you seen over the years? I feel like you've built your house on a rock. You have 3 beautiful daughters, a beautiful wife. You travel the world. You play golf all the time. But I know you base your life off values and principles. Can you speak into that for us? Because I'm going to be doing a teaching this month just really on, you're right, CJ, we have started with the basics. And I think you're such an incredible coach. We start off, I had to think, like, listen, I'm highly processed after 18, 20 years of this. I got to go back and understand. Many of my pastoral meetings are over credit score. I'm gonna say, let's goal set. No. We need to talk about credit and banking and books and like the basic structures of different bank accounts for what reasons, tithing, giving, generosity. But I would love if you could give us some wisdom around core values, why they're important, and how have you set up your life to have a successful life, marriage, amazing 3 daughters. Can you speak into that?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. That's a wonderful way to describe it. I absolutely love the spokes of that wheel that you just described. And for me, core values are those things that are front and center through each and every season of your life. And so culture doesn't change it. Your age doesn't change it. Your circumstance doesn't change it. And when I start to really look at it that way, Matt, you say, well, gosh, okay, so if my bank account doesn't change that, and my age doesn't change it, and who my friends are or are not, and what house I'm living in or not, all of a sudden it's like you just keep washing away until there's just those things left that are not affected by any of those things. And then what do you call those things? Those are your core values.
Yeah.
They just can't be washed away. Amen. They just cannot. And so they are tested and proven. And so as iron sharpens iron, these things are melted, or they're tested in the fire, and they don't melt in the fire. Yeah. Everything else melts away. And when the fire's done and all the lava rock is already all spent and there's nothing left to burn, the core values are right there. A metaphor to this would be, I think about football's just starting, right? And so we've got college football and professional football, back Thursday, Friday, Saturday, heck, it's probably every night of the week now. But when you think about these amazing athletes, and let's go professional for a moment, Matt, and just talk about professional NFL football players. These are some of the most fit athletes on the planet Earth today. And these are people that, mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. But what you realize is that when they started playing football, like for the very first time, pee-wee football, right? They might have been like 6, 7, 8, right? Flag football. They just started in it, right? And then some guys fade away and they go play soccer and do something else. But these guys, for whatever reason, they kind of liked it and it liked them, and they felt some feedback from it. Like, I just really enjoy this. I love winning. I love actually competing, and I love doing it this way. But when you look at them going from 8 years old to 10 years old to 13 to 15, and they've now gone to high school football, here's the thing I'm going to say. There's blocking and there's tackling. There is catching the ball and there's running with the ball. And so when you start looking at, like, what are those core skills that are going on in high school, maybe even previous to that, and then you get to college, top college players, what are they doing during the week? They're focusing on blocking and tackling, and they're looking at how I actually run that route, and how do I throw this, and how do I run? And by the time they're actually at the top of the game, and we're talking about people that are making the playoffs, heading to the Super Bowl, what are they training on? It's the same stuff, of course, at a much higher level, but it's the same things, right, Matt, that they were training on when they were 8. You look at basketball, there's dribbling and shooting and passing, and so when you're 8 years old, the guys in the NBA, what are they practicing every week? And so when you realize those things never went away. In fact, I'm just trying to figure out how I can get better and faster and more amazing than ever in that. It did. So when I got to the pros, it wasn't like, well, I already went past tackling. I'm a pro now. No, actually, what you now need to be is best in the world at that. And see, that's what core values to me really give us an opportunity to do, is to become best in the world at those spokes that you just talked about, financially, about your marriage, about your relationship with the Lord, about your business, etc. There's certain blocking, tackling, there's just dribbling, shooting. It's at a whole nother level, and you should be best in your town, maybe best in your state, best in your industry. There's got to be a driving sense of, I'm not just trying to make money. I'm not just trying to get to the end of the month. It can't be just that I've got this next goal and when I hit it, I'll be okay. There's so much missing there. And it's because those core values just aren't laid down yet.
Wow. You're pretty much saying stick to the fundamentals. But you got to know what the fundamentals are.
Yeah, that's because if we don't have fundamentals, we really are missing one or more core values, because those two are like the either side of a coin. So it's heads and it's tails, and it's core values and it's fundamentals. And if you're missing one, you're missing both of them. And that's those layers, So another way that I look to describe this, that the personal development camp that I do called Camp CJ, it's been going on for over 25 years now. And I've done it through Canada and Europe and Australia, throughout the United States. It's just such a beautiful experience. And while there are many, many chiropractic teams that have gone through it, it's been expanded beyond just simply doctors and chiropractic teams. But one of the things that we learned in the first evening of a 5-day program is a diagram that looks like a wheel. In fact, it is a wheel. There's the axle, and then we start drawing spokes, and then there's the spokes go to the rim, right, outside. And so when you look at that, you just described beautifully, Matt, a few of those spokes. And you can put them in whatever order you want. Like if we just say 12 o'clock, that spoke is my God spoke, right? The one that goes at 6 o'clock, that is my family spoke, and the one that goes to 3 o'clock, that is my professional spoke. And the one that goes to 9 o'clock, that's my finance, prosperity spoke. And you can start to decide, well, how many spokes do you have on that wheel? And we spend a few hours at that. So it'll go more than 5 spokes. It'll go to 9, 10, 11, but it's not 100 spokes. It's 9, 10, 11, 12 spokes. But here's the point. If you just look at God, family, business, income, right? So let's just stay there for a moment. God, family, business, income. And you're looking at, and we could even make those wider, cool triathlon spokes on a wheel. If you have one spoke that is long and strong and another one that's just sort of short, and then you've got another one that maybe bends a little bit, what would the rim look like on that mat? Would it be perfectly round, or would it be a little wobbly?
A little wobbly.
A little wobbly, right? So now though, we're just not going to pay attention to that. Let's just get on the bike and ride, right? Because somehow I just have, in my mind, I'm thinking I can overcome that. So I just start cranking, right? And I have energy, bro. So I can just get on that thing, lock in, and I'm riding, right? But what does it feel like riding? Right? And so now I'm having to work that much harder because I really don't have a beautiful round wheel. And if I had a beautiful round wheel and I could actually pedal like I'm pedaling, I'd be 5X. I'd be that much faster, that much further. Are you with me? Right?
Yeah.
You wind up looking at this and you go, there might even be an amazing entrepreneur on this line tonight. Their God spoke isn't really anywhere near what it should be for them, right? I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about their relationship with the Lord, or maybe with their family, or it may just be how they're running their business through fundamentals, or it might be income in the way that they're actually making a lot of money, but it costs too much money to make it. So their expenses are way too high, or they're actually making great money, but they're a spender first and a saver second. So there's something, again, on that money side, on that income, on the prosperity spoke, it's just not right yet. And so it's a little of a wobbly spoke. And yet that's a wheel, Matt, that has to move. It's not just a static picture. It has to move. It's functional. It moves. And so when I get on my bike and I ride every day, and my spokes are all just sort of out of balance, I'm putting out an enormous amount of energy every day to try to get done what I believe is in everyone's best interest. I'm trying to really help everyone on my team, my customers. I want to actually make a difference in my community. I mean, I've got good intention, but I'm actually working off of a wobbly wheel. And that's how we start that camp. And I'm telling you, 5 days later, every human being, every camp grad is leaving there with a round wheel. Wow. And they have to go through a lot of work, to get that done. But it just tells you that doesn't have to take 5 years or 2 years or 6 months. You could decide, to get after it. And then when you do, what is available for you afterwards in your life, in your business, in your income, at home, etc. It's remarkable.
Yeah, so I understand the concept, and I'm sure a lot of people go, man, that sounds good. And I know, obviously we don't have 5 days to teach it, but as we just round this corner, could you give one or two things that someone could start today just for application? Because, you're so inspirational and everything, but you know what else I've noticed? You're not only inspirational, you're tactical. What could you give as a tactic? Maybe it's just one. What could we start today? You're the best tactical person I know, because a lot of people are inspirational, which you are. A lot of people have theories and beliefs that are backed up by what they have, which you are. But what I love about you the most is you weaponize people. You give tactics that put rubber to the road. Could you leave us with maybe a tactic? Because I know we could go all night long, but I want to honor your time tonight. Could you leave us with a tactic to give them some meat to chew on, to get down on the road and say, I got this one tactic, look at all the fruit. What would that be?
Okay, so let me give a weapon, let me give a tactic, Matt, that puts maybe what I've just been saying into some greater perspective, right, of these different spokes. So I'm not going to change the subject. I'm going to put a tool here together that maybe helps us with those spokes. What's one that we could use right now? This is called the Power 8 to-do list. It's the Power 8 to-do list. Now, one of the things that I have had the blessing to experience, having trained with Tony Robbins, I've done everything that Tony has ever done. Tom Peters, Stephen Covey. There's just so many amazing people I'd love to give credit and appreciate. But what I realized, whether it's Brian Tracy or whoever you're listening to and learning from, every one of them talks about the importance of having like a daily to-do. And what I realize is that separates champions from everyone else, because it's just blocking and tackling. It's one of those things. But when you watch somebody like a left tackle who absolutely knows how to protect his quarterback, he gets paid the most out of anyone on that line, because he actually knows where to be and what to do when he gets there. And if this person does this, he does that, and it's locked down. And there isn't an end, there isn't a linebacker, there isn't anybody that's going to actually mess with his side. Well, in the same way, a to-do list, it can look like a 9th degree black belt, and it could also look like a kid that just had his lunch fall out of his brown paper bag and everyone's laughing at him. Distance in how to-do lists go. There may even be a few people training with us tonight, Matt, if they were being truthful with you and me and themselves, it's not even something they do, not on any regular basis. You know, it's not really, and it might be a mental exercise, but it's not certainly something that is done in any formal way. And maybe I used to do it. And this isn't about goal setting. That's a whole nother conversation we can have at another time. This is actually a daily to-do. We're calling it the Power 8. And I watched myself slip and fall and just skin my knees on that over and over again. And I would do really well, you know, for a couple of months, and then it just seems like I would fade away. And after having then talked to so many other people having similar experiences, the to-do list, you're either spot on or it fades away. And there doesn't seem to be that sort of sustaining tactic where from day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter, I could look back and go, no, I have been spot on. And in fact, I could go back and say, this process, this one tactic, I can lay a tremendous amount of credit to the enormous success that I've had just even in this last quarter because of what I'm about to say. So the to-do list. The first thing that we want to look at is being able to write down early in the morning, early meaning just simply before you leave the house. You know, ideally there's time for you privately, prayer, meditation, some journaling time. And, you know, sometimes, Matt, I mean, that's just 7 minutes, right? Don't think you have to have 2 hours for all this. And I don't like that at all. I don't like that if somebody doesn't have 2 hours, I don't do any of it, right? You might have the 7-minute version of what I'm saying. And then if you happen to get up a little earlier, well, then maybe you have the 27-minute version of that. And then eventually you might have the 57-minute version of it. But at some point you create a version and you continue to improve on it, right?
So good.
So we want to, as best as possible, we want to write down, not in any order, just kind of innately what's flowing out of my head and heart. I want to write down 21 actions, 21 achievements that I want to get done. And the idea is, I'd like to get it done today. Like, why not today, right? But we're not necessarily pressing today because it's a to-do, it's not a today. Amen? It's a to-do, it's not a today. So we're not going to get stuck into, well, gosh, I'm not sure if I have time for that. And all of a sudden it doesn't even get on my to-do. I'm just putting out 21 action steps. It could be a project, it could be an action, it could be small, medium, large. Do not try to get in the way of this because your brain's way beyond where you are. So you want to actually just let your brain connect with the bigness of your life and just regurgitate on page 21. And if you get more than 21, you're in, you know, that's one version of our bonus column, right? That's just 21. Now, here's where the beauty comes in. In those 21 action steps that we want to write down, they're not all business. What is it that you would be really productive in getting done in your life? Small, medium, and large. It might be actually picking up the cleaning. I'm terrible at, I'm going to pick up the dry cleaning today, and that way I'm ready. So when I get on the plane tomorrow morning, or what, you know, and I'm in that boardroom, I'm ready to go, and I'm not frantic if I do this today. And so I'm writing down action steps that will happen for my business, action steps that may happen for one of my daughters, action steps that may happen for my wife, action steps that may happen for my team, for my physical body. Just I'm not putting any limitation. These are my to-dos. That's why we can fill up 21. In fact, we can go past 21. It only takes a couple minutes to get the first step. Step one. Step one is I've got my 21 done. And you really shouldn't leave the house until these few steps have happened. So we've got 21 steps, 21 action steps, 21 to-dos. And they don't seem to be in any order whatsoever. Step two. Step two is what separates the champions from everyone. And this is the Power 8, Matt. The Power 8 is this. You now go through those 21 and you decide which 8 get done today, right? So the to-do now has become today. And when I say today, this is going back to the integrity that I hold myself to. This is the integrity you hold yourself to. What am I saying? When I choose these 8, I don't get to have dinner tonight if these 8 haven't gotten done. I'm not going to sleep tonight, literally, if these 8 haven't been done. So when I say the Power 8, that means it's as good as done. And so that means I need to put out whatever energy, I need to put whatever time, I need to put whatever focus, right? Because those 8, and there could be some small, medium, maybe one large, these are as good as done. And why? Because I picked them and I said it in the beginning of the day. These are getting done. Now, what's so amazing about this, Matt, is that when you get the 8th one done, this could often happen where by 9 o'clock in the morning, I've already got my 8 done, right? By noon, I've got my 8 done. So if I wind up now getting to a 9, a 10, remember there's 21 on the right. If I now get to 9 or 10, I'm in the bonus column today. Do you know what happens with most people in to-do lists? They put out a bunch of stuff, and they're all things that we should get done. And at the end of the day, they don't have it all done. And Matt, how does that make them feel to not have it all done?
Frustrated, horrible.
So exactly, I feel a sense of failure. I feel like I'm behind.
Yeah.
I have these emotions that are mixed because I was able to really get some good stuff done, but man, I'm behind. And that's why people quit to-do lists, because it just doesn't ever seem to make me feel right about myself. And I get it, because they missed the fundamental. They missed the fundamental. They never were taught how to properly do a to-do list. And so we make the 21. Now watch this. Let's say today we get 10 done. Well, they're in the bonus, right? And I now, even though there's actually 11 things left on my to-do list, I'm in the bonus column and I'm actually feeling amazing, which I should. Now, what happens in the 3rd step? Whatever's left in the to-do is just simply rolled over tomorrow. So if I'm putting 21 things up, I wake up in the morning, I've still got 11 that are on the list, and I add to it. Now, that means I could maybe add 10 more. I've got my 21. I could add 20 more. I've got now 30, right? So there's not really a limit to it, but we want at least 21. Please make sure that you've written that down. So now what happens is the next day, I pick my new 8, Matt. And the next day, I pick my new 8. And the next day, I pick my new. And when you do this, trust me, you do this for 7 days in a row, you have never felt more free, more powerful, ever. And you'll feel like, man, I'm in the bonus every day. Now, there are some things 5 days ago I put on the to-do list, Matt. 5 days ago, I put it on the to-do list. It wasn't until 5 days later I chose it as one of my 8. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Right? So I put it on my to-do list 5 days ago, but it just kept rolling because it didn't become a priority of 8, and now it is. Or it just didn't happen to get caught up in a bonus moment, and so it just kept rolling. Well, the point of it is, you never feel overwhelmed, ever. You feel like you're flowing freely, like a true athlete does. You're just absolutely performing almost at a subconscious level. You're no longer functioning from stress. You're no longer functioning from a place of worry or anxiety. No, you're just free flowing. and all the gifts and talents now are coming out through you and into the world. Meanwhile, you are very focused on your 8. And that 8, that never changes. So when you go from being somebody that makes, let's say, 100,000 a year, and then you become somebody that makes 100,000 a year, and you make that's now making 2 million a year and 10 million a year, power 8. Power 8. What happens is you just continue making better and better and better choices of what 8 I'm doing. And so what 8 I was choosing 5 years ago, 10, 20 years ago versus what I'm choosing now, I've just had a much higher level of experience and awareness and effectiveness of what 8 I'm choosing. But the system, the tactic doesn't change at all.
CJ, I've known you, Coach, for over 15 years, and I've never even heard that. That is gold. Thank you. Thank you. Well, listen, I know I could roll this all night long. I know you're in Texas. It's getting late, and I just want to honor your time and honor you. Thank you for blessing the Maverick entrepreneurs that are watching this.
Oh.
This thing is going to touch thousands of lives, and that right there alone is gold. And it doesn't really matter. People get stuck in wheel spin all the time. So if you don't have a tool to line up with your belief and your values and your goals, they just become wishes, and wishes rarely come true. It's like, shoot. So thank you for sharing that gold with us. So
my pleasure. It has been such a pleasure to do this with you, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Yeah, and I know you live in the great state of Texas, Austin, and I know Formula One is now in your city. I'm coming to you, and we're going to spend some time together, and you're going to teach me how to play golf at another level. So thank you, everything, for what you do, and we're going to have you back on here again. You could teach for days, and I know when you're out here and we do a live Maverick Entrepreneur, you'll be our keynote, so I appreciate you. So I'm going to exit this, say goodbye to all my Maverick entrepreneurs, and then you're not going anywhere. Hold on.